I'm Alex Lightman, and welcome to the Lightman Report. Today our topic is going to be making technology unicorns. It's one of my favorite topics. I think about it often. How do you create a company worth $1 billion? So we're going to dive in, and I welcome conversation on social media. If you have ideas about making unicorns, you want to bring them to my attention, please do. Thank you. So here we go. So what's a unicorn? The term unicorn was coined in the use of this presentation in 2013 by venture capitalist Eileen Lee, and it refers to a private company valued at or over $1 billion US that, just like the mythical creature of the unicorn, the statistical rarity of such a successful business venture is improbable but not impossible. A unicorn is a technology company also that's worth more than $1 billion. And I'll be using mostly the first definition, but I feel comfortable also saying that the less used definition of it's any technology company over $1 billion, because the difference between being publicly traded or private, I don't think we should just exclusively favor private companies through our language. I think it's wonderful for companies to go public because then ownership can be much more widely shared. I mean, if you could have a startup, you can have just a few dozen people or a few hundred people who are shareholders. But when you have a publicly traded company, in theory, you could have thousands, tens of thousands, even millions of shareholders. So how do you make a unicorn? These are slides from Visual Capitalists that I love. So 87% of unicorn products are software, 7% are hardware, and then other products and services that are not clearly one or the other, hardware or software, are about 6%. Retailing is the major sector, 25%, and that's typically online retailing. Technology, 19%. Financial services, 11%, including fintech and DeFi, which we've talked about in other Lightman reports. Media, 6%. Transportation, 6%. And let's be clear, these are apps like Uber and Didi and others that are giving leads to drivers. So it isn't, when it's transportation, that's just the general area. Food delivery, 5%, same thing, just giving leads to people. And social network, 4%. And this is my favorite slide of the whole presentation. So there are 7 business models that are typically where the unicorn makes their money. How do they make it? So 33% depend on commission or brokerage fees. And that, if you're wondering, how do I make a unicorn or what should I do? Then just start there. Start with thinking, what area of inefficiency is there that uses commissions or brokerage fees? And 22% depend on selling assets. 15% provide subscription plans, and it can be SaaS, software as a service. 15% rely on displaying ads. It's amazing that they're still in business with such big behemoths out there, either buying them or crushing them out of existence. That was the topic of today's hearings at the subcommittee meeting on antitrust. That was at the day this was recorded. 13% charge the customers based on their usage. 1%, just 1%, sell a license for their software products, and 1% rent or lease their physical or intellectual assets. 62% of unicorn business systems are business to consumer, and that leaves, of course, a fraction of about 38% for business to business. One of the first unicorns was Netscape, and Netscape was the first unicorn internet company. Netscape Navigator grew from about 20% of the browser market in January to about 80% 12 months later. And you can see that in this graphic in the lower right. What a tremendous success. And it went public August 9th, 1995, and the stock value went from $28 to $75 during the first day of trading, creating a warm glow around unicorn-type companies. And the stock closed at $58, which gave Netscape a market value of $2.9 billion. And it was what Bill Gates had called a $0 billion market, because the browser was basically they weren't charging for it. And Netscape was eventually sold to AOL for $15 billion, as some of you may recall. There were other .com unicorns that happened in the 90s. Yahoo went public April 96 with a valuation of $448 million. And I remember very clearly the VP of partnerships saying, the VP of business development saying they had 1,000 partnerships. Amazon went public May 97 at $438 million. Jeff Bezos just testified. I was watching him talk today. I was touched by his story of his childhood and his mother being pregnant at 17 with him and almost being kicked out of her high school, not being allowed to have a locker, not being able to go on the stage. And look what happened. The 17-year-old giving birth to a man who created a company worth $1.5 trillion. What an incredible success. And don't you wish that you had bought Amazon in 1997 when it was worth about $500 million? Incredible. By spring 98, each of these companies' stocks had more than tripled. And then we had the dot-com bust, the boom and the bust, the tech bubble. NASDAQ reached 5,048 at its peak in the middle of March 2000, then crashed to 3,321 in the middle of April 2000, and then bottomed out at 1,114 in October 2002. And we also had quite a lot of things happening that were good for America in the dot-com boom. The big one was that the United States during the 90s created 25 million jobs net. Europe during the period of time created 0. It was just a time when the United States and Europe were kind of comparable in many ways, and the U.S. zoomed ahead. Another thing was that so many people got capital gains from these stocks and there was a battle in divided government between Republicans, led in the House by Newt Gingrich, that their spending was constrained during most of the years of the Clinton administration. So in 2000, we had surpluses. And we look ahead, when this is made in 2020, at a federal deficit of $7 trillion versus a surplus. It's amazing how much downhill things have gone in 20 years. We look at unicorns. So as of 2018, China had the same number as the United States. Pretty amazing, 26 versus 26. India had 3, United Kingdom had 2, Germany had 2, and everybody else put together had 6, according to Crunchbase. And you had a whole lot of acquisitions. I'll just go over a couple. Airbnb, as of February 2019, had 19 acquisitions. Automatic had 17. Pinterest had 15. You go down to Stripe, 7 or so. So basically, unicorns like to not only grow organically, but grow through acquisitions. And this was a topic of the antitrust hearings today. They still keep gobbling up their competitors. And that's just how unicorns grow. I would also point out Coinbase with 11, because we're going to talk in a separate Lightman report about crypto unicorns, which follow a different set of rules. And alma mater, I'll just focus on the top 5. Stanford, 51, Harvard, 37, University of California, 18, Indian Institute of Technology, 12, and MIT, my alma mater, 9, also studied at Harvard. And so maybe it's in the water, maybe it's in the air, maybe just going there and other people doing unicorns, you want to do it yourself. And then unicorn formation. You basically see that unicorns really started to take off in a big way. 2014, 62, 2015, 81, 2016, 43, 2017, 57. So we're getting better at making unicorns. People are seeing certain patterns and being able to recognize that. And you can look at the total unicorn counts growing and growing. 108, 86, and then 105, 169, 159. So unicorn in general are growing. There are some people who are really good at creating unicorns. I'll just point out that 3 of the top 4 are in Silicon Valley, and 4 of the top 4 have the Silicon Valley knowledge base. So there's Silicon Valley Angels Investor Group, 18 of them. Y Combinator, which has a course teaching people, it has 16. Sequoia Capital China has 14, and Sequoia Capital, which famously funded Cisco, the first $1 million at a $3 million valuation for Cisco, which later became worth $555 billion, one of the big successes of the dot-com boom. And that's quite an impressive set of accomplishments. So anybody who can make 8 or more unicorns, hats off, well done. I mean, these are the heroes of capitalism to me. So it's an interesting path to being a unicorn. One way of saying it is, how do you become a unicorn? Get through 6 rounds of funding. And so you can see original 4,119 seed tech companies. 534 of those were able to raise a second round. 335 were able to raise a third round. 172 were able to raise a fourth round. 96 or 9% were able to raise a fifth round. And just 3% or 30 of them were able to raise a sixth round. And of all those companies, 1%, 12 companies, reached unicorn status. So 1% of the companies that have raised a round are able to do it. So it's a pretty amazing thing. The odds are 100 to 1 odds. Not bad, actually. Pretty good if you have VC-funded companies. So why are unicorns so important? Well, it has to do with the power law. Historically, top venture funds have driven returns from their ownership in just a few companies in a fund of many companies. Plus, traditional venture funds have grown in size, requiring larger exits to deliver acceptable returns so that people will keep investing in their future funds. And if you return just the initial capital of $400 million venture fund, you would need to own 20% of two different billion-dollar companies or 20% of a $2 billion company when the company is acquired or goes public. And we can look at the sectors with the highest number of unicorns. So you have 72 in internet software services, 42 in e-commerce, 33 in fintech, and 30 in healthcare, and 23 in on-demand. And let's look at some of the biggest success here, the $10 billion decacorn startups in early 2020. Uber is a giant in the rideshare and one of the most recognizable startups ever. Its market valuation is down quite a lot, but it was $62 billion. Xiaomi was worth $45 billion. Airbnb was $25 billion. And Palantir, it's going to be $20 billion valuation. And Didi Kuaidi is the Chinese-based taxi app with a market price of $16 billion. Snapchat, these are all fresh, just looked up right before going and taping this. Snapchat, the multimedia messenger allowing photo exchange, had a market cap of $33.65 billion. Meituan Dianping, it's another startup from China, had a valuation listed at $145 billion. That sounds impossible, but that's what Google told me just before the taping this. Flipkart was sold. It's like an Indian marketplace, kind of like an Amazon for the local Indian marketplace. It was sold for $20 billion, acquired by Walmart. Though then they said right after the acquisition, the value fell by $10 billion. Not sure why that would happen. SpaceX, also created by the other company founded by Elon Musk, or one of, I guess, 8 at this point founded by Elon Musk, is an aerospace manufacturer and space transportation systems company. And at the moment, they're raising $1 billion at a $44 billion valuation for SpaceX. Well done, Elon. And Pinterest is a visual design and inspiration platform, and it's valued at $14.6 billion. What does it take to make a unicorn model? What are the market requirements? So there are specific empirically based requirements for projects at a unicorn level. It's not a clear framework, but it's basically the combination of the founder's skills that empowers the dynamic of startup growth. So if I had to boil it down to the essence, if a company shows 10x growth over 3 years, it signals the potential to reach that valuation. It doesn't always have to be profitable. It took many, many years for Amazon to show profitability, many years for Tesla to show profitability. And it's worth pointing out that even though at the time of this recording, Tesla was worth about $300 billion, based in part on 4 quarters of profits, all those profits came from selling carbon credits, and that's not a scalable business. So if you had a separate business selling $1 million worth of carbon credits, it would not be by itself a unicorn. So the founder has to be obsessed with results. The trick is to do whatever it takes, write new rules and break the common one, because every famous unicorn breaks the rules. It's part of what gets them press attention, which gets them market requirements. So in conclusion, how do you make a unicorn company? The process of building a unicorn startup is very different from Fortune 500 companies. There are only basically 2 requirements that differentiate unicorn. Your product has a high impact on a customer's life. It changes customer behavior and can improve their lifestyle. Uber changed everything. I haven't actually driven since 2011 because I can call up an Uber, and by the time I walk downstairs, boom, there's an Uber outside. That's not as easy after dark these days of COVID, but it was true for a number of years. And your product has a revenue-generated model from inception. This needs to reduce costs on the one hand and generate enough value. In the case of Ubers, it saves customers time and allows the driver to generate cash. I noticed that for my age group, the average person is spending between $3,500, $4,000 or so a year on their vehicle. And I'm probably spending a tiny fraction of that just by taking Uber when I need it. So these are the reasons that unicorns have become what they are. Uber's more than just a taxi application. It's a phenomenon that changed our view about how a transport service should work. And so really, one of the things that if you want to make a unicorn, look at what problems need to be solved and look at where mindset needs to be changed and look at where capitalist principles of putting a product or a service for sale, a new product in a new way that changes people's minds, go that. So that's our conclusion. I hope that you found this interesting. And again, I hope that you are able to create a unicorn. Good luck with that.